And so it returns. A sickness, a blight. One we can't hope to stop without first understanding it. But there's nothing to understand. It hates you, it hates me, and there's nothing you can do to something you can't understand, let alone hurt. But it can hurt you. So be very, very afraid.
Hello everybody! It's me, Dregobob. Welcome back to Serverblight. In the last episode we covered the bulk of the series, discovered how the Blight works, how it operates, and worst of all, what the fate of those it comes into contact with entails. But not what its main goal is, what its endgame may be. So before we get to the newest episode, we're gonna very quickly go over what we already know about the Blight, and some potential theories I may have missed or not bothered to add in the original coverage. First off, the Blight itself doesn't seem to have any set goal. From what we see throughout each installment of the series, the Blight itself wants nothing more than to come into contact with the players it hunts, to assimilate them, and to add their voice to the cacophony of screams, and, in turn, add their final chosen class to its biomass. Which isn't all too appropriate since it's a digital entity. But you get the gist. At this point in the series, the Blight seems to only wander server to server, assimilating those it comes across, while seemingly marking those who escape for death, as it always seems to follow those it's been around to future servers they join. I didn't notice originally, but we see the engineer from the second episode in the series on the floor in the episode Assimilation. Also alongside Dick, who came from the first episode as well. Now for the interesting part, the assimilation process. When the Blight joins a server, everyone loses the ability to outright disconnect from the server without jumping into a kill zone or off the map. As we see in the final episode before this update, the lines between reality and the game begin to blur. The player and their character slowly melding together, their facial movements syncing along with the rest of their body's movements. It seems if the process itself is allowed to go on long enough, the player and their character completely become one, as we see with the engineer in the first episode, stealing Dick's melee weapon before game-ending themselves. The most intimate looks we have into the process comes from Puppet and Assimilation. In Assimilation, we get to watch the process, the aforementioned blending of reality, seemingly allowing the Blight into their world. As it gets closer in-game, so too does this avatar in the real world. As we watch the MC become surrounded by the Blight, it all finally comes to a close, with us seeing them keeled over in their chair, dead and gone. I'll simply allow the voice actor from Puppet to do the talking from here in regards to their assimilation.
The feeling gradually returns to my limbs. My body feels disoriented. I try to stand, but I'm stuck. Soft, immovable walls all around me. I call out again. How did I get here? I was at home, by myself. Another sound. The walls contort around me. Gravity inverts as I'm turned upside down. Something is pressing into my neck now. Feels like a hand. I try to move my arms. They aren't where they're supposed to be. My right hand is too far away. My left hand is on the wrong side of my body. What's happening? Another sound above me. A gurgling groan, like a person in pain. There's something very familiar about the voice. Am I laying under a pile of bodies? I call out to them, but my mouth won't make the right sounds. The hand pressing into my neck is starting to hurt as sensation returns to my body. Or is it my body? My legs feel too long, my shoulders too broad. Where am I? Everything jolts again. I'm moving now as my entire prison slowly crawls forwards, like a centipede lumbering on 100 legs. With every step, a sharp knee stabs into my abdomen, and I can feel cold breath on my left palm. Oh God, I'm freezing. The biting cold startles my returning senses enough to make me shiver. Where am I? Is this a pile of bodies? Or a pile of corpses? Everything shudders. We hit the ground. I hear a dozen voices groan in pain. I'm one of them. Fingers dig into my neck. The world rearranges again. I'm lying on my side now. There's an opening in the wall in front of me. Light shines through. What is this? Through the tiny crack in the wall, I can see the distinct, photocopied textures of Team Fortress 2. I can see pastel blues and snow and stone. What's happening here? Another pained moan. I can see my surroundings now. All red cloth and taut skin. Arms and legs and torsos and faces, all bent and stretched and squirming. Growing fingers pierce the flesh on my neck. We're moving now, scuttling towards the tunnel in the center of the map. Something pulls us along, knitting together a dozen digital bodies to build itself up. I can feel its writhing influence all around my body, pulling my limbs apart, distorting my form. My arms are too long. My legs have too many joints. I'm being rebuilt according to some otherworldly blueprint. Our mass forces itself into the tunnel. I can make out someone standing at the other end. Another player. I remember. A spy. Helpless. Staring back at our mass. Something smiles behind my head, and all of our constituent parts start to scream for help. We barrel down the tunnel as I feel its fingers enter my body. They split, and 1,000 parasitic tendrils wrap around my mind. It wants me to go along with it, to move and scream like the others. I resist. Its smile widens behind my head. It savors my resistance. Then I feel a million burning pixels sear my flesh, and I scream for it.
This video gives us a very vivid description of what it's like to be a part of the Blight's mass. The hive mind of sorts. You stop being you. Instead, you're now a part of something bigger. Something indescribably painful. Once you're taken, the link between you and the real world is truly severed. Your body is now the final class you ever selected, and here we see what it's like to be a part of the gestalt we see in the first episode. Bodies of all shapes and sizes are forced together, twisted and morphed to form its body, the sick mind at its center, delighting in each and every pain cry, as it metaphorically and literally cracks the whip by causing unbearable pain to those it's claimed. In the end, no one is strong enough to resist. And all of this means each and every blighted you see was once a person that met this horrid fate. A person that now will only ever feel pain until the end. That is, if there even is an end to such a suffering. But that's it. That's your life now. And without dipping into any of the new info shown in the newest episode, that's what I currently know and understand about the Blight. With that, let's dive into the newest episode of the series. Serverblight. Reflection. This episode opens much similarly to those we've seen in the past, with classic TF2 gameplay, with today's main character being Bread Dolphin, who those of you who just came from the last episode or watching the series yourself would recognize as the spy we see flinging themselves off the map in the very first episode of the series. For a time, everything goes on as normal. Well, normal besides the abnormally good spy player Bread Dolphin turns out to be, but not everything can be 100% realistic all the time. And as is a constant with things like this, something always goes wrong. As eventually, Bread Dolphin, after getting a nice trick stab on another demoman, meets another player named Classic, out on the outskirts of the map, beside a waterfall. For a time, it seems like the two are just having a nice chat. Bread Dolphin commenting on some person who friended them, spamming them with messages, while Classic tells them to keep their chin up. Classic then goes to disconnect, but it's already too late. Above them, a massive, disfigured, and outstretched hand protruding from the waterfall beside them, lowering itself down silently, while Bread Dolphin looks on in abject terror as it finally snatches them up. All at once, chaos erupts throughout the map as Bread Dolphin flees. He spots players attempting to fight back, but of course failing. As we watch as several players from previous segments get taken by the Blight. While in the text chat, we see Ghillie Suit followed by several other names from past episodes join the game, all while confused and terrified players question why and how all of this is happening. Finally, Bread Dolphin makes it to Red Spawn, the desperate player realizing that there's no way out. A now blighted scout we saw from earlier rushing them down, before it's promptly blown up by none other than Dixalot, the one who'd been spamming Bread Dolphin's chat. The two of them have a bit of a kinship. After all, they both suffered through the Blight and survived. After Matt gives Bread Dolphin a quick reminder of where they'd met, then after a rundown on what he should and shouldn't do, he tells Bread Dolphin that they can make it out. All they need to do is stick together and keep their wits about them. The two then head off on their way, stopping near the water where Bread Dolphin stares at his reflection in the water, noting how strange it is that he can move more like a person in this world. As we learned, this is because the Blight begins to more or less pull you into the game's world, linking your body to your in-game class's body. The only thing needed to permanently seal you within the game is for the Blight to touch you, though Dick simply leaves it at best not to think about it. Moments after this, Bread Dolphin flees. From beneath the water, a spy, the now blighted Sirenex from the last episode, comes rushing out of the water in an attempt to infect Dick. It, of course, doesn't work, and Sai is dealt with. Whereafter Dick calls Bread Dolphin a breadophile and forces them to return, the understandably terrified player doing so. It's just a bit after this that the two make it to the center of the map. Dick comments it would take too long to cap the point after Bread Dolphin commented on capping it, though the two are interrupted by the cry of an engineer asking for help. However, it's no longer a player. Lumbering from behind a pile of lumber, comes an engineer, one with Classic, the demoman from earlier, bound to its chest. The two almost appearing as if they're melded completely together. As if the constant screaming isn't unnerving enough, the engineer approaches the saw blade in the center of the map, standing there in a way that puts Classic right in the danger zone. Matt and Bread Dolphin only watching on in horror as a blade begins cutting away at the demo man, eliciting an ear-piercing scream, whereafter Dick calls the blighted Engie a bastard. Another thing I found interesting was how this Blight, as opposed to simply attempting to rush down the players, opted to instead play mind games in the form of this grotesque sight. It's after this, the duo escape this particular Blight by jumping over it, the two stopping to talk just a bit of a ways away from Blue Spawn.
I told you. Can't trust. I saw it get people.
Who?
A friend.
My best friend was on Thunder Mountain.
I'm sorry.
Have you seen him?
His name?
Directions.
No.
Shoot me. I'll respawn in there. Dick does just that, one-shotting Bread Dolphin with the reserve shooter before the thing that was making the sound above them is revealed. A long, spindly pyro, slowly lowering itself from the roof, its hand beginning to move toward Matt just before Bread Dolphin decloaks behind the two, the ambassador-wielding spy putting two in the pyro's head and stopping it dead in its tracks. It's after this, Dick tells Bread Dolphin to now get his ragdoll out of the map so that they can disconnect. From afar, we also hear Classic's labored breathing. We see them, doing nothing but standing and watching them. For a moment, we watch Bread Dolphin switch your class. Upon going back to Dick's POV, we watch as Classic walks off screen. Soon after, Bread Dolphin returns, following Dick's instructions as they attempt to ragdoll themselves over the gate. Though, we also get a glimpse of another blighted player. This one stretched and even more enlarged than the pyro by the looks of it. As Bread Dolphin tries and fails, they're forced to respawn. Dick watching as this giant blighted finally makes its presence known, as it steps over the map's fence and begins making its way towards Dixalot and Bread Dolphin. Luckily, in the same breath, Bread Dolphin manages to get over the fence and disconnect, while Matt also finishes off this blighted sniper. Finally, we're left with a shot of the engineer from earlier watching from afar. Matt not wasting a second as they themselves ragdoll out of the map and finally disconnect. We then fade into a steamed text chat between Bread Dolphin and Dixalot.
Feel alright?
I guess. I could feel it pulling on me when I disconnected.
We're out now. You showed me how to leave on Thunder Mountain. We're even.
Thank you.
I need to know. Will you help me? I don't know what's happening, but more people might get hurt. Maybe we can warn them, get the servers shut down. Anything. Maybe I could see Matt again.
I really miss him. But I can't. That thing found me twice. I can't go back. Please. Don't message me again. We then turn to the real world. Dick breaking down into tears as we're given a shot of their phone, open to a text chat with Matt. Countless worried messages and phone calls that all go unnoticed and unread. With that, the video ends. However, it seems we're also given a sort of teaser as we watch a scout head into Blue Spawn and escape the server the same way Dick and Bread Dolphin have. Perhaps this is hinting towards another main character, or maybe it's just something fun the creators tossed in. But beyond that, that's the end of the video. We didn't exactly learn anything new, but it seems the Blight has been becoming more creative, almost smarter with each player taken into its thrall. If anything, it's grown more sadistic and cruel, as we see with its treatment of the already blighted Classic. Dick and Bread Dolphin's chat also confirms some other beliefs I had on the connection, namely that it begins to suck you in before you're even blighted. All that's needed to seal the deal is for a player to come into contact with another blighted player. It's more than likely I've forgotten some things, but that's probably because I've been dealing with a slight head cold. On screen right now, you should also be able to see some art from people on my Discord server. If you've watched this far, I'd love it if you liked, commented, or subscribed. I also have a Discord server where artists, voice actors, and more can mingle and hang. Folks who just like my videos or need a community are also more than welcome too. If you have any series, games, or horror media you might want me to look at in a future video, comment about it, or tell me about it in my server. With that, I'd also like to thank the creator of the series for joining me in this video. Though they played a small part, it was really nice having them here. I just can't wait to see how this series ends. Now, I'm Dregobob, hoping you're having a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Bye bye.